Hi all you fused glass lovers, it's Debbie here on the Costa Blanca. This is video 6 in the series and we're going to look at some blobs of glass that I've created, and we're going to follow the progress of each piece, most of which we will be applying decals to. Okay, so here are some of my blobs, as I call them, which we're going to cut up using a dremel, because to get one of those cutting machines is quite expensive, and I have a dremel anyway, as I'm sure a lot of you do have, so I thought I might as well to use it to cut these up. So I've deliberately made these more than 6mm high, or 1/4 of an inch, so that they would blob out. The reason being is I wanted to see the colours underneath. These are going to have decals put on top of them, most of them, so that we can make some nice pretty scenery jewellery. If we look at this one, for example, we have here, it's just come out of the kiln, I haven't cleaned it yet. We've got some blue, I'll show you what's in there. Blue, bullseye, blue bullseye, okay, and then underneath we've got, well, it was green, I believe. Yes, green, which looks like this. I think that's going to be nice. It actually fires almost black, very, very dark green it fires, but that's okay. And then on the top, and then the top bit up there was a bit of light bullseye, and it's all done on a white back. Okay, then to create the effect of like clouds up there, or you know, whatever, you put pieces of clear dichro on top, being careful not to pick one like that that's going to blot it out. So, and the sort of dichro to use is like this sort of, this is herringbone, okay, herringbone or ripple you can use, because all those there are like clear, it's only like coated on the top of the ridges, you know, in the valleys. The dichro doesn't quite get so much into there. And the reason being that if you was to just put that on flat on a piece, it would pretty much block it out, except for those tiny little lines down there. But so the reason we put it on and make it higher than 6mm is that we know it's going to blob out, and all those valleys are going to open up and are going to show the colours underneath. You don't need to use just one bit, you can use several little bits if you wanted to create different effects, top or bottom, which you would do if you wanted to create clouds, and then maybe just add a little bit of colour down the bottom. We'll experiment with that later. That's the idea of that, but with that one I did just use one piece. This piece here, focus in, has got some dichroic on top, but not much. It wasn't much of a pattern on that, and you can see the lines there, and it was a big blob, so it has spread out quite a lot. You can see it's also spread out and created a clear bit in there, which wasn't intentional, but this is what happens with Dichroic, so this is what happens with fusing. So what we had here, again on the bottom, I had the blue, okay, just any old blue bullseye. Then I put in a layer of green. You can put frit in, you know, but that was just a green piece, the thin one that I was showing you earlier. And then the top was, I've got some of this streaky orangey colour, which is quite nice to use because it's got all the different shades in it. That went on. And yes, you can see as well, look, there's the lines of the Dichroic that went on top, so it has spread out quite a lot. However, it's also spread out in the middle, which has created that clear bit of the Dichroic that was on top. And I didn't put this one on a white background, okay, because it was quite thick enough anyway. I'm going to clean them off because they've got all this on the back. So what I just do is just put them in a sieve like that, and go and wash them under the tap. Okay, So I'll go and do that and then I'll come back. The piece is all cleaned now, and I've put my light on because I just wanted to show you the different effect, how different they look to when I showed them you on the board straight out of the kiln. The hardest part with Dichroic is knowing how it's going to turn out when you fuse it, because it often changes colour, it does things in the kiln you don't expect, and a lot of pieces fail, especially when you're starting off early on. I wish I'd have had, you know, the advice I'm going to give you now when I started off, because it would have saved me a lot of money. Having said that, for each piece that fails, there is always a way to recycle it, to do something and resell it. And this is how you learn going on. I learned, I come across a new method and I thought, oh, all those pieces that failed, I can do that with them now. Or I got a new piece of equipment. For example, I got my glass grinder, and then suddenly all these pieces that blobbed out, I didn't know what to do with. I could start to create nice shapes with them. Then I got on to sawing, and that's opened up a new avenue for me. Anyway, to go back to these pieces, the reason I'm telling you this is because it's useful to know what they're going to look like. You can never remember. You think, oh God, I remember that doing that last time, but you don't remember it when you do it, how it's going to turn out. For example, that is a prime example. You know, when I put that on, I had no idea it was going to turn out like that. I know there are experts out there that know exactly how glass is going to finish up in the kiln, but for my mind, I can't remember. So that's just an example. This piece here, we're going to cut into a nice shape and add a decal to it. But let me just show you how I created it first, so that you have got a picture of the whole process. That is it. It is cobblestone, mixture twizzle pattern, cobblestone texture, wafer thin. So it's only the 2mm thin, which that's what it's going to fire like. You tilt it, so you've got those colours there. Always tilt it away from you, 45 degrees. So there's less of a surprise when it goes in the kiln. That is the colour it's going to fire to, not that colour. So it's more like a purpley colour. As I say, that has come out like that when it's capped, which is not so nice, I don't think. This is what it looks like just using a tack fuse. It's got some pre-fused balls and stripes on top of it. The base is just the cobblestone with those on top and then tack fused. I think it's one of those pieces of Dichroic that is actually nicer when it is just tack fused. This was a piece that I'd fused originally. Similar to this, it had got a lot of balls, which I do in the microwave kiln, which I'll show you in a later video. But I didn't quite like it when it was finished, so I thought I'm going to cap it. So all I did was cap it with some clear, just checking. You could make notes, couldn't you? You could photograph stuff before you put it in the kiln and before you take it out of the kiln, but I didn't. I'm going to grind that on the grinder, or maybe I'll cut it with my Dremel. Now I've got that, just to square it up or make it round. Maybe make it round because it's pretty round anyway. I'll probably get rid of that Dichroic that's showing there. Sometimes it's nice when the Dichroic shines through, sometimes it isn't. It's just personal choice. So that is a piece that's salvaged. This one was some of the orange that I mentioned earlier. I used that as on the back completely. Then I put in some red, and then I've put this Dichroic on the top. But look what's happened with this Dichroic. It's decided, this piece decided it wasn't going to spread out. It just decided it was going to sit there. It probably wasn't thick enough for it to spread out to its full potential. So I could put some clear on top and make it spread out a bit more if I want, or I can just cut it down and use the bit in the centre that's there. I've yet to decide what I'm going to do with that. This one is a little bit of a disaster. Again, I didn't have it quite thick enough and it's not spread out as much on the top. But we will be doing something with that in another video. As I say, there's always ways to fix these. This one which I didn't talk about this one. This is light green glass, dark green, that dark green that goes almost black, orange and blue for the sky, with a piece of the herringbone that I showed you, rainbow herringbone I think it was. Again, I'm going to cut this down. I'll show you that when that's half done and then when it's finished. The colours in this one are just absolutely gorgeous. I have a piece of pattern. So that was a patterned one similar to this. I don't have any more of that particular one left. So that was a patterned one on the bottom. Candy apple red piece, that's the top, all thin. And then the Dichroic that I put on top of that was similar to this. This is green magenta fusion pattern dewdrops wafer thin, which hasn't spread quite as much as I wanted to. Now you'll notice with that, you'll know probably, if you don't you will now, because I'm going to tell you, you can't put Dichroic to Dichroic, so you couldn't put that way because Dichroic won't stick to Dichroic. Well, it does a little bit in a fashion, but it shrinks and it's just a mess. So what you have to do, and what I did with this one, if you can see that, is put a piece of clear between the two, because that is Dichroic side down and the bottom is Dichroic up. So put a piece of clear in the middle, and that helps it blob out as well, if that's the effect that you want. And then you can put your Dichroic down. Anyway, they're nice colours in that. It's just that there's a lot wasted at the side, but what I shall do is cut that off and we can reuse that. You see that a lot of Dichroic as well, when you put it face down, tries to escape. That's like the raw Dichroic has come back up through the glass. As I said before, sometimes it creates a nice effect, sometimes it's nice to get rid of it. When we work on this piece, and we'll work on each of these pieces in other videos so you can see them, I can show you what we can do with that. You know, it was a piece I'd fired a while ago and I wasn't too happy with it, wasn't very exciting. So I put this piece of Dichroic on top, Dichroic side up, not down this time. And you know, it's created quite a nice zebra effect on that. I think straighten this up, maybe make it into a circle, square or whatever, and you've got quite a nice cabochon there. So that's how each one of these pieces has been created. You've seen the materials that I've used in them, how I've used the process of making them higher than 6mm so that they spread out, so that the Dichroic spreads out rather than blots out what's underneath, which can happen. There's only a few clear Dichroics that you can put on top of pieces that don't blot it out, and there are some that you can use to your advantage by allowing them to spread out by making your pieces higher to enable you to see the Dichroic colours underneath. The next video we'll be cutting them, grinding them, adding the decals, and you'll see the final pieces additionally with some other pieces with decals on them. So stay tuned for my next video. Look forward to seeing you. Thank you.